John and Carla started with the exact same $96,600. Same city, same $80,000 salary, same year, same bank, same tired dream of not renting forever. John took his savings and bought a house. Carla kept renting the apartment 3 doors down. 30 years later, one of them is worth $487,000 more than the other. And it is not the person you think it is. Most people would bet on John, the homeowner, the guy building equity while Carla supposedly threw her money away. That bet is wrong. Carla, the renter, ended up $487,000 ahead. Not because she got lucky. Not because her city was strange or her timing was perfect. She ended up ahead because of a single number almost nobody calculates before they buy. Today we run the real math on renting versus buying. Every dollar, every year, every hidden cost, both of them actually paid. No shame, no hustle, just the arithmetic. By the end, you will know exactly which one you are about to become. Here is why this matters more in 2026 than it has in a decade. The average 30-year mortgage rate is sitting near 6.5%. The median home now costs more than $400,000. And renting is currently cheaper than buying, month for month, in all 50 of the largest American metros. That has almost never happened before in modern history. Back in 2020, the payment on a median home was around $1,700 a month. Today, that same payment is closer to $3,100 a month. The rules you inherited from your parents were written in a completely different market. Your parents bought a house at 8% interest, but they bought it for $60,000. The math that made them rich does not automatically make you rich. And yet the advice never changed at all. Stop renting. You are throwing money away. Buying always builds wealth. A house is the best investment you will ever make. Those sentences feel true. They get repeated at every dinner table in America. But feeling true and being true are very different things. And the gap between them is measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we are going to do something the advice never does. We are going to run both lives side by side for 30 full years. Same money in, every single cost out, nothing hidden. Let us keep this fair. Let us meet our two people properly. Because the entire point is that they start identical. John is 32 years old. Carla is 32 years old. They both earn $80,000 a year at the same company. They both have exactly $96,600 saved in the bank. That number is not random. It is a realistic nest egg for a careful 32-year-old. It took each of them years of skipped dinners and steady saving to build. They live in the same mid-sized American city where a decent home costs $400,000. And critically, a nearly identical home 3 doors down rents for $2,000 a month. That last detail is the entire experiment. Same house, same street, 2 different ways to live in it. Neither of them is richer, smarter, or luckier than the other today. They are effectively the same person standing at the same fork in the road. The only thing that will ever differ between them is one decision. And that single decision is about to compound quietly for 3 full decades. John decides he is finally done renting. He finds a $400,000 house he loves. He puts 20% down, which is $80,000 in cash. By putting a full 20% down, John smartly avoids paying private mortgage insurance. Then he pays another $16,000 in closing costs, inspection, and moving. That wipes out almost his entire $96,600. John now owns a home and has almost nothing left in the bank. His mortgage is $320,000 at 6.5%. That makes his principal and interest payment about $2,023 a month. But that number is not his real cost, and we will get to exactly why. For now, John looks at that payment and feels genuinely proud. It is close to his old rent, except now he actually owns the place. In his mind, every dollar he pays is buying him a piece of the house. That belief feels wonderful, and it is only partly true. John feels calm for the first time in years. No landlord can raise his rent now. No landlord can ask him to move. The house is his, the door key is his. The whole thing feels like arriving. Carla makes a completely different choice. She signs another lease on the $2,000 apartment. She keeps her $96,600 right where it is. And here is the move that quietly changes everything. Carla takes that entire $96,600 and invests it in a low-cost index fund. She does not touch it. She does not spend it. She sets it to compound automatically and refuses to check it obsessively. Her plan is almost aggressively boring on purpose. Buy the entire market, add money every month, and simply wait. No stock picking, no timing, no drama, and no genius required. On day 1, John owns a house and Carla owns a brokerage account. John feels miles ahead of her. He has a driveway, a deed, and a place that is finally, permanently his. Carla has a screen with a number on it and a landlord who could raise her rent next year. Her friends tell her she is being irresponsible. Her father tells her she is throwing money away every month. If you stopped this video right here, almost everyone would say John made the smarter choice. The problem is that most people never press play on the next 30 years. We are going to press play. Because the deed and the driveway are real, but so is the number on Carla's screen. And numbers compound quietly in the dark while driveways just sit there. Run the numbers, and this story slowly stops being about houses at all. When John put $80,000 down, he did not spend $80,000. He relocated it. That money is not gone. It is trapped inside the walls of the house. And trapped money carries a hidden price tag called opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is simply what that money would have earned somewhere else. John's $80,000 locked in home equity earns whatever the house appreciates at. Historically, American homes appreciate around 4% a year over the long run. Carla's $96,000 sitting in the market has historically earned closer to 8 to 10% a year. That spread does not sound dramatic at first. 4% versus 8% feels like a rounding error you can ignore. Over 30 years, it is anything but a rounding error. $96,000 growing at 8% for 30 years becomes roughly $960,000. The same amount trapped at 4% becomes only about $311,000. Same starting money, same 30 years, a $600,000 difference. That gap is not caused by the house being bad. That gap is the pure opportunity cost of the down payment. And almost no buyer on earth calculates it before they sign. They see $80,000 turn into a home. They never see what $80,000 could have turned into. Instead, this is the number the whole video hangs on, so sit with it a second. Money does not just have a value. Money has a job. And every job you give it means a job you gave up. John's mortgage payment is about $2,023 a month. But owning a home is never just the mortgage payment. First, property taxes. At roughly 1.1% of the home's value. That is about $440 a month. Next comes homeowner's insurance, which runs John around $150 a month. Then maintenance, the cost that everyone conveniently forgets. The rule of thumb is 1% of the home's value every single year. On a $400,000 house, that is $4,000 a year, or about $330 a month. And 1% is the optimistic estimate. Older homes routinely cost double that. Now add it all up, honestly. John is not paying $2,000 a month. John is paying closer to $2,900 a month to own this house. And here's the genuinely brutal part of it. Property tax, insurance, and maintenance build zero equity for John. That is roughly $920 a month. Every month, that vanishes exactly the way rent supposedly does. Nobody ever calls that throwing money away, but the money does not care what you call it. When the roof leaks, that check is gone forever. When the property tax bill arrives, that check is gone forever. Gone is gone, whether it goes to a landlord or a county treasurer. The renter's waste is loud and obvious. The owner's waste is quiet and wrapped in the word equity. People love to say a renter's payment disappears while a buyer's payment builds equity. In the early years of a mortgage, that is mostly a comforting myth. Look closely at John's very first mortgage payment of $2,023. Of that amount, about $1,733 is pure interest to the bank. Only about $290 actually pays down what he owes. So in year one, roughly 85% of John's equity building payment is just interest. That interest builds John no equity whatsoever. It disappears to the lender exactly like rent disappears to a landlord. It takes John more than 15 years just to reach the point where he pays more principal than interest. Over the full 30 years, John will pay more than $400,000 in interest alone. He is buying a $400,000 house for over $700,000 all in. Yes, the equity does build, slowly and reliably, in the later years. Nobody is saying homeowners never build wealth, because they clearly do. But the story that renting is uniquely and specially wasteful falls apart instantly. Both John and Carla are paying every month to keep a roof over their heads. One of their checks says landlord on it. The other check says bank on it. For the first decade, the money moves in almost exactly the same direction. Away. This is the step that makes or breaks Carla, and it is the step almost everyone skips. Carla is not just renting. Carla is renting and investing the difference on purpose. Her rent is $2,000 a month. John's true cost of ownership is about $2,900 a month. That is a gap of roughly $900 every month that Carla simply does not have to spend. So Carla invests that $900 automatically, the very same day John pays his mortgage. She sets up an automatic transfer so she never has to feel the sacrifice. Every month, John's extra money flows into taxes, interest, and a new water heater. Every month, Carla's extra money flows straight into the market. $900 a month invested at 8% for 30 years. Grows to over $1.3 million on its own. And that is completely separate from her original lump sum still compounding in the background. Carla is not sitting still while John heroically builds wealth. Carla is building wealth faster, in a vehicle that grows almost twice as fast. This is the whole secret, and it is boring on purpose. The renter who invests the difference is not the reckless grasshopper in the fable. She is quietly, patiently the ant, but notice the enormous if buried in this section. All of it only works if Carla actually invests the difference every month. That single behavior is the entire ballgame, and we will come back to it. Right now, a lot of you are shouting the same objection at the screen. This is rigged because John's mortgage is fixed and Carla's rent rises every year. That is a fair and serious point, so let us handle it honestly. It is true that rent tends to rise around 3% a year over time. In 30 years, Carla's $2,000 rent could roughly double to about $4,000. John's principal and interest payment, meanwhile, stays frozen at $2,023 forever. On the surface, that sounds like it should hand the entire win to John. But two things quietly rescue Carla from this objection. First, John's costs also rise every single year. His property taxes climb, his insurance climbs, and his maintenance climbs right alongside inflation. Only his principal and interest are frozen. The rest of his bill inflates just like rent. Second, and more importantly, the timing of investing is everything. Carla's biggest advantage comes from the early years, when her monthly gap is largest. Those early invested dollars have 3 full decades to compound. By the time Carla's rent finally catches up to John's costs, her portfolio is already enormous. The dollars she invested in year 1 are worth 10 times more than the dollars she skips in year 25. Rising rent absolutely narrows the gap. It does not erase it, because compounding rewards the person who invested early and heavily. Now let us kill another myth John's coworkers keep repeating to him. Don't worry about the interest. You write it all off on your taxes. For the vast majority of people in 2026, that is simply not true anymore. To deduct mortgage interest, you have to itemize your deductions. But the standard deduction is now so large that roughly 9 of 10 households take it instead. If you take the standard deduction, your mortgage interest saves you nothing extra. On top of that, the deduction for state and local taxes is capped. So the tax benefit that made buying magical for your parents barely exists for most buyers today. John hears write it off and pictures a huge refund. In reality, John itemizes, runs the numbers, and finds the deduction saves him almost nothing. Here is the one honest advantage buying still has, and it is a big one. Buying forces you to save. That mortgage payment is a legal obligation, so John pays it no matter what. Investing the difference is optional, so a weaker version of Carla would quietly skip it. For millions of people, the forced savings of a mortgage is the only reason they ever build any wealth at all. That is not a math advantage. It is a discipline advantage, and for many people it is decisive. Here is the trap that catches more buyers than almost any other. Buying only wins if you actually stay put long enough. Remember, John paid $16,000 just to get into the house. He will pay $80,000 or more just to get back out of it. Those transaction costs are enormous, and they hit whether the market rose or fell. It takes years of slow equity and steady appreciation just to earn those costs back. In most American markets in 2026, that break-even point is around 5 to 7 years. Buy a house and sell it just 3 years later, and the math is often a quiet disaster. You paid all the closing costs, all the interest-heavy early payments, and all the realtor fees. You barely dented the principal, and appreciation had almost no time to work. Life, meanwhile, does not care one bit about your break-even point. Jobs relocate you. Relationships begin and end. Families grow faster than any of us expect. The average American moves roughly every 9 years, and a huge number move far sooner. If there is any real chance you will move within 5 years, renting is usually the clear winner. This is the single most overlooked variable in the entire rent versus buy decision. Do not ask only whether you can afford the house today. Ask yourself honestly how long you will actually stay inside it. A house is a long-term commitment disguised as a simple monthly payment. The longer John stays, the more his purchase quietly makes sense. The sooner John leaves, the more Carla's flexibility ends up paying off. Match the tool to your real timeline, not to your feelings in the moment. Now let us be completely fair to John because buying a home is not a mistake. Homeownership has real advantages that a cold spreadsheet cannot fully capture. First, a fixed mortgage is a powerful long-term hedge against inflation. Carla's rent can rise every single year for the rest of her life. John's principal and interest, never move a dollar for 30 years. In an inflationary decade, that frozen payment feels better and better every year. Second, at the end of 30 years, John owns his home free and clear. His housing cost in retirement collapses to just property taxes and upkeep. Carla, by contrast, must keep paying rent until the day she dies. That is a genuinely frightening thought for a lot of future retirees. Third, a home is a commitment device that quietly forces discipline. John cannot panic sell his house the moment the market dips. Carla can absolutely panic sell her portfolio at the worst possible time. Many investors sabotage themselves, and a house protects John from his own worst instincts. Fourth, there is the part that no calculator on earth will ever measure. Stability, deep roots in a community, painting a wall any color without asking permission first. A safe, permanent place to raise kids that no landlord can ever take away. That emotional dividend is completely real, and for many families it outweighs the money. So this was never about proving that buying is dumb or that renters are geniuses. It is about making sure you count every single cost and every real benefit first. Defenders of buying have one genuinely great argument left, and it is leverage. John only put $80,000 down, but he controls a $400,000 asset. When that house rises 4%, John earns 4% on the whole $400,000, not just his $80,000. That is real, that is powerful, and it is the best thing homeownership does for you. In a great decade for housing, leverage can make a buyer look like a genius. But leverage is a tool that cuts in both directions with equal force. It amplifies your gains in the good years and amplifies your losses in the bad ones. Ask anyone who bought at the peak in 2007 how leverage felt on the way down. And leverage still does not erase the phantom costs, the interest or the opportunity cost we already counted. When you net every single one of those forces out together, John's leveraged 4% and Carla's unleveraged 8% end up much closer than buyers ever expect. After 30 years, John's house is worth about $1.3 million, and he owns it free and clear. That is a genuinely excellent outcome, and John should be proud of it. It simply is not the winning outcome in this matchup, and that surprises almost everyone who runs it. There is one final cost that buyers pretend does not exist until the day they finally sell. Selling a house is not free, and it is not cheap. The standard real estate commission is 5 to 6% of the sale price. On a $1.3 million home, 6% is $78,000 gone at the closing table. Add title fees, transfer taxes, and the repairs needed to make the place sellable. John could easily lose $80,000 to $90,000 just to turn his house back into spendable cash. Carla's index fund does not charge 6% to sell anything. She clicks one button and pays almost nothing to access her money whenever she wants. Homes are also gloriously, stubbornly illiquid. You cannot sell the guest bathroom when you suddenly need $10,000. Carla can sell exactly $10,000 of her portfolio on a Tuesday afternoon. So let us stop looking at pieces and add up 2 entire lives. After 30 years, John owns his home outright, worth about $1.3 million. But he paid over $400,000 in interest and hundreds of thousands more in taxes, insurance, and upkeep. Net of the cost to sell, John's usable wealth lands near $935,000. Carla, meanwhile, never once stopped investing the difference. Her lump sum and her monthly deposits compounded together for 3 straight decades. Net of everything, Carla's portfolio lands near $1.42 million. Line them up honestly, side by side. Carla is ahead by about $487,000. Same salary, same savings, same city, same 30 years on the clock. The only real difference was where each person let their money grow. That is the $487,000 difference the title promised you. And now you have watched every single dollar of it get built. But here is the twist, and it is the part almost every rent versus buy video gets completely wrong. Renting did not beat buying. Investing beat not investing. Read that sentence again because it changes the entire lesson. It is easily the most important sentence in this whole video. Carla did not win because apartments are somehow magical. She won because her biggest chunk of money was allowed to earn 8% instead of 4%. The house was never the villain in this story at all. The idle, uninvested down payment was the villain the whole time. Carla simply refused to let her single biggest pile of money sit still. That is the entire trick, and it has almost nothing to do with apartments. And watch how fast the entire result flips when you change just one assumption. If Carla had rented and spent that $900 a month instead of investing it, John wins by a landslide. If John had bought a house 20% cheaper and invested the savings, John could pull ahead. If home prices in his city rose 6% a year instead of 4%, the gap nearly closes. The $487,000 is not a law of physics. It is the output of specific choices, and you personally control every one of those inputs. Change the return assumption from 8% down to 6%, and the gap shrinks by half. Assume Carla panics in one ugly year and sells at the very bottom, and it shrinks again. These are not abstract knobs on a calculator. They are your actual behavior over 3 long decades. So the real lesson is not the lazy renting is smarter takeaway. The real lesson is that the rent versus buy debate is a decoy the whole time. The question was never really about where you sleep at night. The question is whether your largest dollars are working at market speed or sitting still. A homeowner who also invests aggressively on the side can absolutely win this. A renter who spends every spare dollar on nothing absolutely loses this. The wealthy renter and the wealthy owner have exactly one thing in common. Both of them relentlessly invested every dollar they did not truly need to spend. The house wasn't the mistake. Leaving your biggest asset earning 4% when it could earn 8%. That was the mistake. So buy the home if you love it and it fits your life. Just never, ever forget what that down payment could have quietly become. So, which one are you about to become, John or Carla? Do not answer that with your feelings about houses. Answer it with your calculator instead. Before you sign anything at all, run your own numbers for your own city. Take the true monthly cost of the home you actually want, not just the mortgage. Then subtract the rent on a genuinely comparable place nearby. Whatever that monthly gap turns out to be, ask yourself one honest question. Will you actually invest it every single month for the next 30 years? If your answer is a real yes, renting and investing can quietly make you richer. If your answer is honestly no, then buying may be the only thing that ever forces you to save. There is no universal winner in this fight, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. There is only the version of the math that matches your discipline and your real life. That is the whole game, and no guru on the internet can run it for you. The most important financial decision you can make is knowing which strategy is right for you, not the strategy that is right for your uncle or your realtor or a stranger online. Do the math yourself. Make the decision that matches your reality, not someone else's sales pitch. If this showed you a number you had honestly never calculated before, subscribe to Desmond Wealth and hit the bell. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every day. Your house should be a home first, before it is ever anything else. Whether it is also your best investment is a question only your own numbers can answer.